Welcome back. The question I want to ask today is really off the hip. Normally I use ChatGPT. I've given you examples of the communication that's being shifted by what ChatGPT allows, what it does not allow, where it specifically tells me I cannot talk about, and what it covertly removes completely from my research and or my outline. And we're seeing this more and more as we move forward. As you listen to other content creators, you're going to start to hear key phrases that loop and words that you know 5 years ago or even 2 years ago you wouldn't have heard phrases in that format, and yet now this is what we're seeing as a crush in society. Crutch, sorry. And so I wanted to just really focus today on fraud. And so today's video is going to be a shout out to two specific individuals. One is Susan Bassey, who is located here in Santa Clara County, and the other one is Bay Area Transparency. So these are two that are predominantly on YouTube. I don't know if they use other platforms as well, but that's where I got introduced to them. And what they do is they go out in our community and record while they are asking tax-funded jobs. So maybe somebody at the county clerk or the police department or an admin in a county or city office to do their job. And the people, rather than just doing their job, get highly offended, throw fits. What we've seen on those videos is off the hook. And many times they've been either threatened with arrest or trespassed and cannot come back. The Susan and Bay Area Transparency. Yet I think we're so far removed from what the truth actually is in society and where we need to go with this. So this is going to be the crux of today. Really at a crunch for time, I wanted to give you an update of what all I've been working on so that we can move forward with that, but tell you really some of the absolutely disgusting incidences that I witnessed yesterday in the Santa Clara County Courthouse. So let me shout out again Susan Bassey and also Bay Area Transparency. If it weren't for them, I would not have even known that this is a process that we can go through. I was very much aware of Freedom of Information Act under federal law because while I was trying to survive my job, I learned about the FOIA process and started demanding FOIAs in many areas, including FOIAs on myself. And the documents that came back after huge fights and threats of tens of thousands of dollars was still either nothing or so highly redacted you couldn't really tell it was even me other than a simple name somewhere in the document that was me. Everything else was gone. So why, as a private citizen, even though I was a tax-funded employee of the federal government, I was civilian, not military, why would my files, when I was holding on for dear life, witnessing what was happening to my peers, why was my file so heavily redacted? So fast forward, I didn't understand that we had an opportunity at a state or local level to also request the same information. In California, it's called the California Open Records Act or Public Records Act. I think they shorten it CPRA. Different organizations have different links around that. I think at the police department, it's IPA. I don't know what the I stands for. But it's not that easy of a process. The law is very clear, but the individuals have not been properly trained, and it's 100% true that they haven't been properly trained for a reason. So what I wanted to do is open with what I witnessed yesterday and then bring you up to speed with the FBI, the Department of Justice, the USCIS, the Department Civil Rights, and California Department of Industrial Relations, which is known as the labor. They cover labor laws, labor violations, which they're not. Okay, so yesterday I was back in court excuse me, and I was down at the Santa Clara County Courthouse, Department 42. Department 42 is on the first floor. As you enter, you go through security, you swing a right and a quick left. It's there on your right, right past the clerk's office. Now, the challenge is I'm still fighting for Beverly. So we were trying to figure out, one, whether or not she was still needed to go to court, because back in December, we were told the case had been dismissed and she didn't have to show up again. However, we got conflicting information. Yes, she does. No, she doesn't. Yes, there's been additional charges. No, we can't give you the arrest records. No, we can't give you the file. Oh, it's all disappeared. Her mugshot's gone. There's a huge cover up going on. But this is part of what I started talking about back in COVID. There was such a major issue with what I called jellyfishing, where somebody would go into one area with such a level of incompetence. They were purposely put there so that they would mess up wherever they were placed. In addition to that, they would flop around and mess up a dozen other things as well, whether it's department or industries but the impact would be massive because they knew the level of incompetence. And again, for anybody who stands up for DEI and hasn't seen the absolute destruction that we've gotten out of it, DEI was a key proponent of jellyfishing. It's insane. Can we not go back to the point where we have a job that we need done? We find somebody who has the experience, the education, and the desire to do that job. And part of that desire is alignment with culture. Culture does not mean skin color. Culture does not mean what country you're from other than the United States so you can band together. Culture means in the corporate space, whether your goals and vision are in alignment with the company's goals and vision in a way that you can help move that ball forward for them, and in a capitalist society have an ROI. Every FTE or full-time equivalent needs to bring in or be a part of a chain that brings in money. The challenge is, rather than an FTE being because of sales, it became of government grants and government scholarships and funding in order to support this system that is highly broken, corrupt, and has shifted the values in American companies and American neighborhoods, as I've spoken to. But what did I see yesterday in the courthouse? First of all, Beverly went to the wrong court. We split up and tried to figure out, where did we belong? We tried since December to find follow-up, to find data, to push this. And I don't mean just phone calling and emailing. Twice a week, minimum of once a week, if not twice a week, I walked the whole area to go from the sheriff's department, the police department, the public defender's office, the DA's office, the police investigators, just on a cycle back and forth, then go to the senator's office, every direction we could to get clarity. And so if it was unclear to me, what is an 82-year-old woman supposed to do, as she can barely walk because of the attack she faced by the San Jose Police Department? And what about others who are just surviving in life, working 2 and 3 jobs, got caught up in a system, and they're not being let go? Did you know that under the system, even if you are released, apparently they can still file additional charges within a year afterwards? That seems odd on its face. However, they don't have to notify you of your pending court date or additional charges have ever been filed. That's not a requirement. So you can have a bench warrant because you got caught up in a system, and all of a sudden you could end up in jail because of the corruption within Santa Clara County. And I cannot say on any level that this is a mistake. This is planned, and the corruption is massive. And so yesterday, without going into the case details, because I don't want to focus on that in this short time today, but we sat there in Department 42. Department 42 is very important because they pull individuals that are currently booked in the jail in to see the judge. So they come in typically through a door that's on the far side of where the benches are, where we sit and wait for the judge. and they come in handcuffs, sometimes shackled with their feet as well, and they sit in what I kind of refer to as a hockey box. So they're sitting in there behind glass, and there's a sheriff there that watches them. Well, one of the first cases was the name was called out, and the public defender, whose name I believe was Cassandra Kinchin, Chein, I think on the end of that. And I, based on what I witnessed, I think she's doing a phenomenal job. And I did speak with her briefly afterwards, and I intend to follow up. But the judge called the name of one of the inmates, and this public defender stated that that person's not here. The judge questioned that. I questioned that. I thought, how is that? If they're in jail, they're not going anywhere. The public defender then stated that there's a problem with the system. They have gone 3 times to get this individual, and they can't find them. Okay, so are they there or not? I'm wondering, are we having leaks in the courthouse? Is our jail, what's going on here? Well, the public defender further stated that she has gone 3 times to the courthouse to get this individual that was booked and admitted into the jail system on February 20th and hasn't been seen since. So at this point, I'm getting very upset. What is going on with our system that we're losing the people that we're putting in jail? Well, then the DA's office stands up and said, yes, we're facing the same problem too. And then 3 attorneys that were there, that were private attorneys, that are tell the judge, yes, we are all facing it too. People are being booked into the jail, and then they're being lost in the system. And we go to pick them up for court, we can't find them. Well, what we've learned is follow the money. If somebody doesn't show up to court, there's bail issues. There's additional warrants issues. There's additional costs and fees and penalties. The system that is mostly privatized at this point makes more money when people don't show up. So the judge was absolutely appalled. She couldn't believe that she heard this. So clearly, this was her first interface with this reality that the public defender, the DA, and private attorneys are losing inmates in the Santa Clara County Jail. Now, when I looked it up, it looked like they have a maximum of 2,000 people at any given time. How can they not keep track of that small of a population? It's just incredibly baffling to me. Then the statement came out. Santa Clara County, the jail system, and I looked up, it's run by Santa Clara County Sheriff's Department, IT department, has gotten new software. And since the new software was rolled out, they're losing the people in the system. And to that, all I can say is WTF. There is no other response to this than extreme anger. I don't live in Timbuktu. I live in Silicon Valley. We are the pioneers of infinite amounts of technology and innovation. And global headquarters, until Gavin Newsom pushed them out, were primarily centered right here in Silicon Valley. And yet in 2026, we can't book somebody into a jail and know where they are the next day. This is absolutely disgusting. So what we're doing now is we're pulling open records request on who was given the contract and how that process went. So this is where we're at with this absolute crap. In addition to that, as I mentioned, charges can be filed up to a year after cases are even dismissed, but they don't have to notify the individuals. So I recall a few years ago, excuse me, and this would have been before COVID, that an individual had helped me in the yard. So, this was probably even close to 20 years ago. He was helping me in the yard. Often when people walk by, I'll ask if they want to help. and then let them do day work for the day. He was an American. He was raised here. However, his work set him up. And I had to verify all of this because the stories seem extremely odd when people get involved with the court system. In fact, they often seem like somebody's lying. And as I found time and time again, somebody is lying, and it's not been the person in front of me. So something happened in his work. When he left work, he was attacked. Because he had just been leaving work, the work then fired him based on this attack. It was later proven that the attack was linked to work. They had set him up. They wanted to terminate him. And I've heard the same scenario many times since then. Well, anyways, rather than being a victim, the person who attacked him filed charges. And this individual got arrested for, I don't remember the charges right now, but violence against somebody else, assault. I don't remember how hard it was. So he got pulled into court. The public defender had informed him that, you know what, we've got enough evidence. Don't worry about it. You're just going to walk in front of the judge. We're going to get you released. You're going to go home right away. He gets into court. There's all kinds of games. He finds out that his court date had actually been changed to the day before. And because he didn't know it was the day before, and his attorney didn't know it was the day before, he had a piece of paper that said it was that day, he'd missed his hearing. So the judge would not even hear his case. He had a bench warrant for his arrest. And rather than looking at the clerical error and the fact that he did show up per the piece of paper he had, they put him in jail. They booked him. Well, you know what happened? His car was parked outside at a meter, because this is how it is around the courthouses. You can't park for free at a meter. So after a certain period of time, the tow trucks know this is happening. So they tow the trucks and tow the vehicles and lock them up. So now he doesn't have a car because he's in jail that he didn't plan for. He'd gotten a secondary job because there had been some lapse of time. And now he's not showing up to his new job, and he's lost his vehicle. So now so much time passed before he got back in front of the judge. Again, not innocent until proven guilty. He's locked up. So much time passed that, in fact, he missed rent and lost his apartment. So all of a sudden, this kind gentleman that grew up in the years I did, in the neighborhood I did, had faced an extreme life change that was set up due to no fault of his own. And yet the system supported this. Now, for any of you who have listened to my scenario of what's going on with Beverly, the system supported this. 2 weeks ago, or last week actually, I went back in there to file documents with the court. Now, as you might recall, although she's been attacked and messed with since 2007, as far as I can find documented, it was just calling and harassing her until the Santa Clara County Clerk's Office accepted a document from somebody out of state who said she died, affidavit of death. And upon submitting that affidavit of death, they went ahead and submitted a beneficiary for the property, and for $0 of transfer tax, changed it into somebody else's name. So I have gone down to the county and asked them how we file a notice that would be valid to be attached to the house, to just let somebody know that, hey, we're just looking into this. We can't claim it's hers by law, which makes no sense to me, but just a notice that there's something going on here. We are looking into it. And we just want the next buyer to understand that this is what's going on in case they're buying it and they want to know the facts. So we asked the county clerk, what format do we have to provide the docs? What kind of docs are allowed? And every single time we're told that the clerk's office does not look at the documents. They don't validate them. All they do is they take what they're given, they stamp it, and then they attach it to the property in this case. Okay, so we researched and used ChatGPT and got a valid format, went to two different title companies actually, to ask them how they would perceive this document, and then verified as best we could with an attorney that this would be a legal option to do. So we We go down to the county clerk's office and they won't accept the document. And yet they accepted the fraud from somebody who said she died and stole the home from her. They won't accept her document saying, hey, wait, here's my signed affidavit that is notarized saying that we believe that there might have been some steps skipped or however that was filed there. And yet when I call them out on the fraud, they are so offended. How dare you say that we committed fraud? Well, you know what? You did. And if you're a county paid employee, paid by taxpayers, where are we at with this? And so yesterday, while I was at the county, apparently at the courthouse, apparently Susan Massey was over at the clerk's. And the clerk's, apparently Susan Massey was back in front of the courthouse. So we're starting to see that more and more people are raising questions. It's not fast enough. So I wanted to just kind of bring you up to date here. Information Act and or the California Public Records Act or Open Records Act is another, it's a roadblock we're facing. And we're seeing this across the board. It's a roadblock when we want to submit it. The DA's office keeps telling us that we can't file. When we finally got to the point of filing, within half an hour, we got an email back that said it's already closed. There's no process here that is viable for you and I. USCIS, this is United States Customs and Immigration Services. You and I aren't allowed in there because only people allowed in there have an appointment. And you can only make an appointment if, in fact, you're an immigrant. And then, of course, we have updates on the H-1B visa process. I saw a quick snippet yesterday. I haven't had time to look at the video. The lady's name, I believe, was SG, Sarah. Gosh, if you know it, please let me know below so I can go back and look at that video. But she's investigating the fraud, and yes, it is a fraud, of the H-1B visa scams in the Texas area. So what she pulled up was a number of documents that were filed with U.S. Customs and Immigrations requesting the right to have H-1B visas come into our country and help us out specifically in the technology field. Now, when the individuals come in, there's restrictions. One, they could not have found anybody locally. Two, they had to be an expert in that field, of which cannot be found here. And three, they have to report to a specific location, meaning they cannot be remote workers. If they're given a right to work in this country under an H-1B visa, they have to be in a location. Otherwise, remote work could be overseas. And what she's finding out as she's going door to door in office building and office building, it was no different than what Nick Shirley discovered. The doors are locked. When you looked inside, there's no furniture. Nobody ever works in these. In fact, one tech company used a P.O. box. And as she went to the home of the individual who has, I think, 7 employees apparently working inside that P.O. box, the lady said that she didn't know anything. It's her company. She doesn't know where they work. She doesn't know who they are. She doesn't know anything about it. Ask her husband. It's her company. The husband said, oh, they just never came to the United States. Really? This company paid thousands and thousands of dollars at a minimum, even pro bono, to get individuals here into this country. All the visa, the attorney fees, the background checks, everything that they had to go through. And yet somehow not one of them showed up. Well, that's okay. The USCIS has a system for that. You can do not a recall, but you can notify them that they didn't come, or you can rescind it. And that would be very important because you can only have so many individuals. So if somebody's not coming, you rescind it, and then you can have a space to apply for more. And one of the easiest ways to look at this is via myvisajobs.com. You can put in, just in a Google search as an example, myvisajobs.com into it, or Amazon, or whatever company you want to look up and see over the last, I think it's 5 or 6 years that they list how many H-1B visa and green card that they've applied for, how many were verified, how many were accepted, how many were rescinded, how many were, all of it rescinded by the employers even. That all that data is there and easy for you and I to look at. You know what it also shows, if you scroll down, is what the common salary is for an individual in this type of role. So what you and I would make if we were in that role. And then right next to it is a column that shows what is the prevailing wage for an H-1B visa holder who's in that role. This is where we have to understand. I am constantly told the H-1B visas are brought over here because they're less expensive. Yet in every single column I looked at, the payment to H-1B visa holders is significantly higher than locals. And in fact, in my experience at Intuit, based on my conversations with my peers, the closest salary to mine was 7.5 times higher. The majority are 12 times higher. And they had an entirely different medical insurance and benefits package than what we had. So who is paying for this? You and I are. Now, again, as I mentioned, the H-1B visa scam isn't a scam on its own. All of a sudden, they have a spouse that shows up. They have babies right away. And then both sets of grandparents show up. And somehow the grandparents inform me that they're on Social Security and medical benefits, but they've never been to this country before. How far does this scam actually go? And yet, once again, California Open Records Acts are absolutely denied. In fact, I was told by my state senator, my federal senator, that I wasn't even allowed in their office. And this person was mayor of my city because I wasn't an immigrant. They weren't going to let me in. They didn't let me in. And then if we go to FOIA, did you know congressional offices are free of FOIAs? You cannot ask for that from them. And it's very difficult to find the right person to ask within these key organizations. And they just ignore their own. So this is where we're at. Once again, I want to give a shout out to Susan Bassey and Bay Area Transparency, separate, for really teaching me and showing me the ropes and standing up for us taxpayers in a way that we can understand what the process is and how we can start to stand up for ourselves. Now, in close, I wanted to talk about one little facet. This may not mean a lot to you, or it might, but there's something called a C-lot. Excuse me, a C-lot. This is T. So what if you work for the county, you have a sticker that has a letter C on it and you put it on the back of your car. And then you can park in one of their few lots that they have back there. And in just a matter of moments, walking through the lot, I saw over a dozen cars that had DMV tags that were so expired, it wasn't just a waiting for a couple months. One was expired in 2022, a whole bunch were expired in 2023, and many, the bulk, were expired in 2024. You know who also works for the county is the sheriff. The sheriff had a booth out as they were answering questions, and so I walked up to the sheriff and I said, you know what? I can't get DMV tags if I don't prove I have insurance. And my insurance gets dropped if my DMV tags aren't current. They check each other. And over the last few years, although I have driven for almost 40 years with no accidents, and I think there was one ticket 35 some years ago, and I drive a car that was paid off more than 20 years ago, my insurance has more than tripled. because there are so many people in my area who don't have insurance. It's now a liability for me that I have to pay for it. The sheriff confirmed he's faced the same thing. His insurance rates personally have gone up significantly. And so I asked, why are so many people who work for the county getting paid by tax dollars, driving to work every day, parking in the county parking lot, putting up the sticker where people drive around and verify, security drives around and verifies that there is a C sticker on the cars, and that they don't drop their eyes just a little bit to notice that, in fact, the DMV tags expired years ago. Therefore, they don't have a right to drive on our streets, and they're not paying insurance, and yet they are getting tax-funded money via their jobs. When people are willing to cheat about one thing, they're usually willing to cheat about anything. And these are the people that we're paying in order to be good stewards of our county. And I bring this up because it's not independent. Who is running the courthouse where we cannot find the people that are in the jail? Who is running the jails that they're not properly logged in the system? Who is setting up an IT system where we're looking at a computer rather than opening our eyes and looking for the truth? The same people that drive to work every day and evade the law and put the burden on all of us while they're taking our tax-funded money. So this is my update today. The Department of Labor still takes a stand that they're not going to move forward and represent me because I'm not an immigrant, so I don't have priority, even though the filing was in October of 2022. And we're still pushing our way through the courts. Okay, well, I hope you have a good day. We've got some other videos that we're waiting to push out. But as you know, there's only 24 hours in a day, and we're really hitting the streets right now, trying to push the balls uphill as we move through this process. You have a blessed day. Please, I'm reading comments below. If you have any other insights related to these or any contacts we should follow up with, please let me know. We do have a Twitter. I think you can DM me over there. I don't log in as often, but if that's more private, I'll eventually get over to that one as well. Have a blessed day, and we continue to ask for prayers over here. See you later.